There are no boundaries. You know, lest you think that the decision to leave here was simple. It wasn't. But as that song says, your dreams, if you allow them to, will literally rip into you and pull them out of you. And sometimes it takes that, because sometimes we're being very stubborn. Did you ever notice that? Where we're just fighting our good, and we don't even know we're fighting it. And you know, my dream has always been, my desire has always been to take this teaching as far as possible out into the world, where there are no boundaries, which is why I don't really feel like a brick and mortar understanding of this works for me anymore. And yet, the more I said it, I still kept focusing on the brick and mortar part. And now, literally, the dreams came in and said, no, you're going back to NoHo, now figure it out. And all of a sudden, you know, I came in today and Carl said, you seem so uplifted by all this move. And I was like, yeah, I'm being moved. I'm being changed. We're being changed. We're being asked to go further, to go beyond what we think of as Sunday church. Why do we even have it on Sunday? That's next. So there are no boundaries when you remember that you are God. So last week, we talked about the thing itself. And Ernest Holmes said to us, the mind which we discover within us is the mind that governs everything. This is the thing itself, and we should recognize its simplicity. And truly, I am, if nothing, interested in the simplest way to get this, the simplest way to understand this, and the simplest way to be this thing that I am. So the first 4 weeks, the thing itself, the way it works, what it does, how to use it. So the first week was the thing itself, and what we realize is that the thing itself equals love, that's who we are, that's what God is, that's what this creative force in me is, it is love. Emerson said, and I closed last week with, oh man, there is no planet, sun, or star could hold you if you knew but who you are. You are love. So today, we move into the way it works. So, if I am love, then how does love work? If that's what I am, I'm the energy of love, how does love work? Why do we love? Did you ever ask yourself that? Why do you love? Anybody here love anything? We do. We do. It's what we do. It's who we are. We love. That's our very nature. That's what we were talking about last week. The thing itself is God. God is who I am. Who I am is love. So it's my job to love. I love my friends. I love strangers. I love the world. I love the life I live. I love the life I don't even know yet. I love it all. Can you say that?
I love it all.
I was actually just asking if you lived that way, but it was nice to hear it back. I love it all. I mean, there we go. Ernest Holmes says, the science of mind is not a special revelation of an individual. The science of mind isn't about what Ernest Holmes taught. It didn't come through Ernest Holmes. He says the science of mind is not a special revelation of any individual. It is rather the culmination of all revelations. The culmination of all revelations. So, what's the answer to why do we love? Where's the revelation there? And here's the answer. We love because it's who we are. It's that simple. We love because it's who we are. It's just what we do. So when I ask the question, you know, when I talk about the way it works, that's just the way it works. I am love, and the way it works is I love. Can that be any simpler? I mean, that's really what he's teaching. I love, and therefore, that's the way it works. And he says in the book, it works by working through us, doing what comes naturally. So, love then, you thought I was going to go there. So love then is not only who we are, but it's also what we do. And that's how it works. I am love, and what I do naturally, innately, is love. So, if what we do naturally The best way to look at the way it works is to say, now listen, if I say what I do naturally is love, then the best way to understand the way it works is to leave it alone, to allow it, to just allow yourself to love. Allow yourself to be who you are. I think we work really hard at trying to be this thing called God, this thing called Spirit, this creative energy, all the ways we describe God. And yet if we just break it down to love, God is love, I am God, I am love. How does it work then? I just do what's natural for me to do. That's how it works. So we get caught up in the magic of all of this. And there's nothing magical about it. And the title of my talk today, while it is the way it works, the subtitle is, Do You Believe in Magic? And I'd like to answer that and say, please don't believe in magic. Because there's nothing magical about what I'm saying. There's nothing magical about being love. There's nothing magical about this teaching. And there are those that will turn it into magic and are so interested in the magic of it all. There is no magic. As soon as you decide there's all this magic, you have separated yourself from who you are, as though you're something else. The magic is this. I'm not this, but there's the magic. No. The way it works is for you to get who you are, understand that you are love, and then just start loving. Just start doing what you're here to do. So, this was a very interesting week for me. I have an amazing story to tell you someday, about what happened this week. But first I'd have to figure out actually what happened this week. But there are pieces of it that I'm starting to get clarity on. So, the incredible Terry Taylor, who is so focused on making sure that we are in the exact right place at the exact right time, and I'm so grateful to him for that. He called me and he said, I found the exact place where we need to be. And I said, okay. I said, but we are moving back to NoHo. No, you got to go look at this place. This is the exact place we need to be. And I said, okay, and I did. And he said, here's the man, call him, go see the place. So I did, and I set the appointment for the next morning, and I believe, what was that, Rita, Tuesday, maybe? Because I did it on Monday. So I went to meet this man. His name is Obadiah Harris. I went to meet this man and to take a look at this building in Los Feliz. And, yeah, Los Feliz. And it was beautiful. I mean, it was great, and I walked into the campus. It's a nice campus, and the building, it all looked nice. I will tell you, I walked into the building and knew instantly it's not where I am going to stand and talk. So that didn't work for me. However, this man, Obadiah Harris, who I believe is in his 80s, he was such a mystic, so smart, so spiritually connected, and he started talking to us about things and where he's come from, and all of a sudden, I felt like there was like this light being poured into me, and he just turned and looked at me, and he said, and it was the first time I heard him say it, he said, well, I was a protege of Ernest Holmes. I worked with Ernest Holmes. I was like, okay, that's cool. And he said, in fact, he heard me speak one day, and he invited me to come live with him. And I came to L.A. at his bequest, and he mentored me, and he turned me into this incredible speaker minister, and then gave me a church in Arizona, which I ran for 3 years. He ordained me. And he's telling me this whole story, and as you can only imagine, Rita was speechless, which is impossible to really make happen. And Rita was with me, and Diane Cantwell was with us, and we were just listening to him talk about these stories, and then suddenly he told this story. Well, he used to drive Ernest Holmes around. He was his driver. And he said, Ernest had the best of everything. He had to have the newest and the best of everything. How could you teach the science if you didn't live it? So, I'm selling my car. So, he said he bought this new Lincoln. He said, and it had all these gadgets and buttons and all the windows and everything. He says, no, we'd never seen anything like that before. He said, so I'm driving Ernest, and he's in the back seat, and I push a button, and I hear this scream from the back seat. Apparently, I just caught Ernest's finger in the window. He said, and I pulled over, and I was like, oh, my God, I'm sorry, and I pulled it down. And I turned around, and I looked back there, he said, and there's Ernest's finger just bleeding profusely. And he said, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. And he said, and Ernest just looked at me and smiled, took his hand, and went like this. And his finger stopped bleeding. And he said, oh, my God, that's magic. You know how to do magic. Now, what's interesting is there were three of us standing there listening to this story, and Diane heard it one way, what his answer was, and Rita and I heard it a different way. So we actually have Rita's researched this, and I don't know if you have the answer yet. But I finally remembered exactly what he said and why Diane would think that it was one way and I would think that it was another. So Obadiah says, oh my God, that's magic. And Ernest Holmes says, that's just what it is. Now, Diane thought he said, it's magic. But what I heard was, no, that's just what it is. I'm just verklempt. That story, now he went on to say many things to me that day. And it has moved me and made me really question some things. And certainly because this man was at Ernest Holmes' deathbed, was with him when he died, and knew what the man felt and thought and what he wanted for this movement. And he shared things to me that I'm just beginning to percolate and understand. So I'm sure there'll be more about that later. But this understanding, there is no magic. It's not magical. You can do it. I feel like Jesus saying, greater things can you do. As soon as you stop thinking it's magic and put it up on this pedestal as something only a few people can do, as soon as you do that, then you'll get the way it works. The way it works is to look at it and say, it's just what it is. That's the power that is in your mind. That's the power that is in my mind. Ernest Holmes says, when we see God as it is, then and only then shall we see ourselves as we are. So frankly, it is time for us to take God down off of the pedestal. Putting God on a pedestal separates us again, and we're in duality again. And I'm not saying we should bring God down to a different level. I'm saying lift yourself up and recognize that's where you are. That's who you are. That's what you are. And the way it works is that the moment we actually figure that out, it's just what it is. Ernest Holmes also said, we shall find a better God when we arrive at a higher standard of man. So what is your standard of man? I loved what Mary said about the quality of life. If you are not living the most amazing quality of life, then there's a little bit of misunderstanding going on in your mind. Ernest Holmes says, we cannot recognize that it is while we are believing that it is not. I think we have a lot of the knots going on, and it's time to get rid of those knots. And I mean the knots that tie us up in our stomach and the things that we get wrong. Your greatness is natural. It's not special. It's natural. Your creativity is natural. Your abundance is natural. It's not, when I get this opulence of life, I'm going to be so special. It'll be so different. Frankly, if your mind doesn't change, nothing's going to be different. As Jamie said this morning from Thoreau, Irving Berlin really did get it right, like you thought I'd really let that go. Folks are dumb where I come from. They ain't got no learning. Still, they're happy as can be. There's going to come a day when I'm going to do that and they're going to go silence because they'll all be under 30. So, and they're not in theater. So there you go. So, folks are dumb where I come from. I just want to look at that line. I think folks are dumb where I come from. I come from Earth. We still think we're human. That's dumb. Really. And on CPR, I'm here reading all these things of I'm a spiritual being having a human experience. I'm like, no, you're not. Don't do that to yourself. I'm a spiritual being having a human experience. No, you are a spiritual human being. That's it. Having a divine experience. And it doesn't matter what's happening. That's how it is. Because you have the power to correct anything you want to correct, yes?
Yes.
Okay, so folks are dumb where I come from, but we don't have to be dumb, do we? 2 people said no. Okay. Still, they're happy as can be doing what comes naturally. The way it works is to let it alone and just allow it to do what it does naturally. And we have to stop putting up barriers. We have to stop putting up boundaries. There are no boundaries to the greatness inherent in each and every one of us. Emerson says, there is no great and small to the soul that maketh all. You know where there is great and small? In your mind, in my mind. Every time we look at something and relegate it to that part of the world, saying that's not good, that doesn't work, then we're saying there is great and small. Now, I can say, I'm not interested in this, and allow it to go on its way. That's allowing. That's surrendering. That's surrendering to something bigger than the effects, bigger than the relatives. I said on CPR this morning, it is time to surrender our relatives, to just surrender them and allow ourselves to know that we are the divine, right where I am. Ernest Holmes says, our belief, now listen to this, our beliefs, let me take that personally, my belief, your belief, sets the limit to the demonstration. Your belief sets the limits to your demonstration. Your demonstration of a principle which of itself is without limit. So the beliefs you have set the limits for what you can accomplish, for what you can experience in life. But the principle that allows you to think what you think, the mind that allows you to know who you are, is unlimited. That's what he's telling us. That's the way it works. And he also then says, ignorance of the law excuses no one from its effects. Because you're allowed to think stupid things. We're allowed to introduce an unintelligent factor into an intelligent universe. How many unintelligent factors do you think you had this week? I know. I'm sure I had 1 or 2. Just this morning on the CPR call, I was talking about not allowing yourself to ever even think that your life couldn't possibly be unfolding perfectly. And yet I can guarantee you, throughout this week, as Rita and I were talking about how do we put the church back into our building, there were moments that I wasn't really focused on this is unfolding perfectly. I was focused on I need to unfold this perfectly. And yet, it's the allowing of it that opens it up, expands it, grows it, relaxes it, and allows it to be what it is. And you know what that is? Perfect. Either my life is unfolding perfectly or it isn't. Either your life is unfolding perfectly or it isn't. I'm here to tell you it is. And I'm here to ask you to get on board with that. And I'm here to say to you, don't be one of those folks being dumb where you come from. They ain't had no learning. You have. You come here and you hear the truth. I stand here and I speak the truth. So we need to start listening from that place of knowing. I mean, ignorance of the law excuses no one from its effects. Do you think the law of gravity would say, oh, that poor sweet thing doesn't know if he jumps off the roof, he'll fall and break something. Let's let him fly. No, laws don't work that way. They're impersonal. The law of your mind is just listening to you. And whatever you tell it, it believes. Ernest Holmes says, how much can one demonstrate? How much can one demonstrate? You know what? Answer that question for yourself right now. How much can you demonstrate in your life? Is there anything that is beyond the scope of what you are able to accomplish? Is there anything that's beyond the scope of what you, John Livesey, are able to do with your life? Now, it's not just that you're sitting in front of me. It's because I know you as a man that decides what to do and then does it. The mind that knows that it can, does. Do you get that? The mind that knows that it can, does. So, are you a good witch or are you a bad witch? Do you know that you can, or sometimes do you think you can't? And let's face it, how many of us think we can't sometimes? I mean, we don't want to admit it, but it's true. Sometimes we think, oh, that's big. It's not. It's only big in my mind. How much can one demonstrate? The question is, and Ernest Holmes says, just what one can believe, nothing more. How much can we find in our consciousness, and this is the best part, how much can you find in your consciousness that is no longer repudiated by any of your own denials? How much of what you want in life, how much of what is in there to live in life, are you willing to leave alone? How much of what you say you want to be, say you want to do, are you willing to leave alone so that the law can do its work? How much are you ready, willing, and able to just stand in your truth, know who you are, and then allow it to be what it needs to be? The truth is that you are denying yourself whatever you are denying, and the universe is denying you nothing. That's the truth. The universe is denying you nothing. You are. Now, that's the good news. The good news is that in my mind, everything is possible and everything is probable. So, the thing itself, I know who I am. You know who you are. You are love. You are God. You are creativity. You are this divine energy that can do anything. The thing itself. The way it works is to do what comes naturally. And in order to do what comes naturally, you have to stop doing what's not natural. It's not natural to worry. It's not natural to be angry. It's not natural to be afraid. It's not natural to have any of these things going on. There are human emotions, divine human emotions. We get to feel them, we get to experience them, but what mind is feeling them? What mind is experiencing them? Who is at the helm of this magnificent cruise ship? Can you tell I'm ready for my cruise? Who is at the helm? You are. I am. We are. So these are just incredible lessons from Ernest Holmes. And I got to tell you, you just haven't lived till a man named Obadiah looks you in the face, and I mean looks you in the face, and does this. It's just what it is. You are already perfect. Now just get out of the way and let that perfection take over. Namaste. Thank you.